Welcome back to Box to Box. Well, of course, we've got our sofa full, Frank Buglioni, Dan Levine and Sam Boswell, all here to talk football and boxing. We just finished on John Terry. Sophia wanted to continue it. We've vetoed it. So let's talk about the fairy tale that is Leicester. Now, it's a fantastic story, an incredible story. And what breaks my heart, Sam, is that now everybody's going, can they do it next season? You know, are the players going to... It sort of takes away from it straight away.
I definitely think there needs to be a little bit of time to reflect on what they've achieved. It's staggering. I mean, a lot of people were banded about the fact it's the biggest sporting upset ever and it was 5,000 to 1 with the bookmakers. I think to put it into context, we get one-off events that shock us in sport. Surprising results in anything from boxing, football, you name it, there's a one-off. They've done this consistently over the whole season.
They've only lost 3, haven't they?
Their performances haven't even dropped. Even in the Everton game, they had 33 shots on target. And it's staggering, and I think we need to not belittle them. I noticed a few people saying, oh, they'll be relegated next season. I can't see that happening at all. I don't think they'll necessarily repeat the title bid, but let's focus on what they've done and say, well done.
Dan, do you think the fact that such an underdog was able to win the league, the likes of Burnley being promoted, Middlesbrough, do you think it gives these teams hope?
She keeps asking this question every time I go, Burnley, no. But we should address...
I don't know what your beef is with Burnley, by the way.
No, we should address this. Burnley move up. They've done it twice.
The Premier League.
2008, 2009 and last season as well. They move up, they don't buy any players,
What do
they don't do anything different because they just don't do anything. They come up to the Premier League with the want to go back down to the Championship.
Okay, I'll change the question. Underdogs in the Premier League teams, lower teams, do you think... Anyone can answer this.
Dan's like, do you two shut up so I can answer?
It gives players and teams more hope. It changes the Premier League.
Well, the landscape has completely been changed by TV money, hasn't it? Yeah. Everyone is now rich. There are not small clubs. There used to be tiny clubs and enormous clubs, and now there are big clubs, and there are a lot of sort of averagely sized clubs that are doing really punching above their weight. And so there's no reason why teams like that can't overperform in the future, you know.
And talking about that, teams are punching above their weight, we're looking at a potential of 9 clubs going into European football next season. Even.
Yeah, even.
There is potential. I don't want to...
Don't jinx it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure they're going to win the FA Cup, but anything can happen in football.
Yeah, as a Palace fan, I'm really excited to be going to Wembley. Manchester United need to win the Cup more than us. It's a day out for us. They're the ones under serious pressure.
Let's be honest.
They're under serious pressure. If I had to match the two teams up, I think Manchester United would obviously be the favourites on paper, but Wembley does strange things. You know, Palace, they've got a real good core there, and I'll be amazed if we get battered. I think it'd be a close game. 1 goal will decide it.
Frank, you've been sparring with Harry. Do you actually talk about...
up again, shall we?
No, I was just thinking, do you actually talk about football? Because there must be a massive amount of heartbreak for them. They thought they could do this as well, and then there must be a massive amount of disappointment. Is that something you guys have talked about?
Yeah, well, he mentioned the morale is a little bit down, and I think it reflected in their last performance. So they've kind of, everything was for that first place, and then when they fell short of it. But they're professional, they're a young team, they're going to pick their hopes up. They've done well this season, so I'm sure they'll bounce back.
It wasn't like they did at Liverpool. Do we all remember when they were so close to the title, came to Selhurst Park, were winning, and then suddenly managed to drop the points they needed, and they had that awful end where Chelsea managed to Demba Ba, the Gerrards. Well, from a Liverpool perspective, I was talking, but it's not like Spurs have lost the title. No. They just didn't catch Leicester,
and I think that.
Yeah, I was going to say it shows what a mad season it was. The fact that how well they did, and they still.
It would have been a shock if Spurs won the title. They were like 100 to 1.
So I'm just going to rewind back to the top of this conversation. Leicester. There has been talk that Mahrez might leave. I mean, I know that Vardy's already signed his contract. He says he's going to stay. But Mahrez, what do you think? Is he likely to stick there?
Well, the deputy chairman at Leicester says that he thinks he's got Mahrez in the bag. I think N'Golo Kante is the one to watch. I think he's the one who's definitely looking around, might find another club somewhere.
Do you think it will affect it? Because realistically, not the whole squad's going to stay.
No, but the thing is, they've got a really, really tight unit there. Yeah. They're all great mates. They're not just a team on the pitch.
Which is a major factor as to why they won the league.
Yeah.
And they work hard and they play hard together. And you're never going to have this again. Once one of them goes, that little thing is gone.
Yeah. And Ranieri's definitely managed in a very different way. And actually, it's interesting. It is definitely a European way in some respects of looking at even education and performance is giving people rest time, and he's done that. I mean, Vardy was saying he found it amusing when he was sunbathing that Sunderland were across the way training, and when he was in Dubai and he's watching Sunderland being, hammering down the training, and they're relaxing. And I think that has made a real difference to a team like Leicester that perhaps need to be rested.
Also, isn't it refreshing to see a manager manage in what I would describe a polite, respectful style? He's not trying to do mind games. He was just talking down their chances. He just Every press conference, yeah, it's great, we're doing well, first target survival, gets past that next target, we're going to try and win as many games as possible. There's no doing down of other teams, there's no blaming the referee, it's very much take it on the chin, and I really respect that, and I think it's refreshing to see.
Yeah, certainly.
Looking slightly further down the table, there's still a lot of contention, obviously, for fourth spot. There's
Please
only
don't
2
tell me you
points.
managed to bring us back to Chelsea.
No, I'm not. I haven't even, how can I mention Chelsea
We're not that
within
far down the
fourth
table.
spot? and you know what? You
Yeah, we've got a long way
buzzed
to
off
go.
that as well. There's only actually 2 points between United and City for fourth. Firstly, who do you think is going to get it?
Probably lean towards City.
Yeah, I think so as well. But actually, in terms of Pellegrini's reign at City, it's sort of ending on a bum note, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was terrible seeing the other day when he did his final speech to the City ground. And yeah, this is a man that won them the league, that got them to the Champions League semi-finals, and there are half a dozen people in the ground there to say goodbye to him. And that's just such a shame.
Do you not think, though, I'm not defending that because I do think it was a bit disrespectful, but considering the resources he's had, he has spent some serious money at that club. And I suppose if we equate money to success, he's failed. And that sounds harsh when he's, won the Premier League. Europe this year, I thought they were going to get, I honestly really fancied City to have a proper run at it. And they got close. But that game they played, and they just fell away. I just was really disappointed. And I can understand the fans' frustration. But at the same time, if you win the Premier League and you're called a failure, it's a harsh reflection of the league.
It is a harsh reflection, but I do think in that game they only had 3 shots on target in the whole game. It was disappointing. But we are football and boxing, so it's time to talk about boxing. Let's hear from Anthony Joshua as he talks about his next fight.
June 25th, Brazil.
Yes.
Do you feel that he could take you past the mark where you haven't been past yet in a fight?
Potentially. That's not a bad thing. If he does, I mean that he's got an awkward style. But I don't plan it to, you know what I mean? But if he does, then so be it. I'll definitely be ready. But I do hope to get him out of there before the final bell.
I mean, in his last fight, obviously a lot of people in the UK haven't heard of him. His last fight, he did come back from the canvas to break his opponent's jaw.
Yeah.
Do you see that threatening him, or do you think you've got it pretty much handled?
Well, I feel I got it handled because I'm going to train hard and take my camp serious. So in that sense, I say fights are won behind closed doors. But I think that's a good strength he has, is the fact he can get up, from adversity, come back and win. So yeah, well done to him. But the last guy he fought ain't me. So what we do against our last opponents is irrelevant because we've got to come against each other now. So train hard, rest well, come to fight, the best man wins. Simple as that.
Showtime deal, do you think that could help dispel the media hype job bandwagon against you?
What's the meaning of the dispel? How do you mean?
To go over to the States, do you think that will help you build yourself up as not a hype job?
What's a hype job? Look at it this way. A football club's been established for hundreds of years. Anthony Joshua came along to the general public a couple months ago when I won the world title. I have to build hype. If you're not building hype, he ain't doing his job, Eddie ain't doing his job, or I ain't fighting right. So the word hype job is what I need. So yeah, I don't want to get rid of that title. I need that title because it seems we're all doing the right thing. So I thrive off of that if I look at the positive.
Last question, how do you see the fight going? What's your prediction?
He'll come out jabbing. I'm going to use my jab, defend a few. Oh, is that a slip? Okay, cool. If he throws that again, there it is. Bang. He's still there. Okay, cool. Oh, shit, he caught me with that. Don't let that happen again. Tuck up a bit more around that side. Get back to my jab. One jab ain't enough. Double it up. Feint there right to the body. There's a jab slip. Bang. AJ wins. And still.
And on that note, cheers. Cheers, right.
So he's got that one planned out then.
Yeah, he's pretty calm, cool.
Okay, so
customer,
talk
isn't
to me about that. He has got his next fight coming up.
Yeah, June 25th against Brazili, another unbeaten American. And this time it's quite interesting. There was a little, I don't know if you saw in the press conference, there's a little bit of beef. You saw a slightly different side to Anthony Joshua, but again, he should get through this pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I think so. He's the champion now, so he deserves the respect, and whether the opponent isn't going to give it to him, so he feels that he should have it. So it's nice to see that side. I think you need to flick a switch when you box, when you get in that ring, and even in the build-up, I think you need to let them know that you're not there to be pushed around, and that's what he did.
Now back to you. Jose Burton is current British the light heavyweight.
Yeah.
That's a fight I'm guessing you're after now?
Without a
There's
shadow
a
of
lot
a
of
doubt.
banter between you two on Twitter.
Yeah, he's a cousin of Tyson Fury's,
Yeah.
so he's got a good boxing pedigree.
I've got good banter.
I was about to
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
There's a bit of that.
Well, at the moment they've gone quiet. I've called out for the fight. Have heard no response.
As Sophia said, it's a fight that the fans want to see, because on Twitter, once you're talking about it, the fans are talking about it, aren't they?
Yeah, we boxed it before in the amateurs, and it was a great fight. One I come away with a victory, and I'd love
Let's
to have
be
the
honest, you
return.
came away with quite a lot of victories as an amateur, didn't you?
Yeah, I won most of my amateur fights.
I say most, he's like 60 out of 70.
70,
It's not a bad stat, by the way.
It's,
You're being modest.
yeah, I've done well in the amateurs, but the professional is obviously where it counts, and I won that British title, and he's the holder, so I want to get in there and take it off him.
Okay, so you're obviously part of the Olympics build-up. We're looking at the Olympics again. Are there any fighters that people should be looking out for?
I think Anthony Fowler, he's definitely one to watch at 75 kilos. He was on the squads when I was there. We had some great rounds and some great sparring. He's a real good puncher. A lot of head movement as well, so he's definitely an exciting one. But we've got so many chances for medals over at Rio. It's going to be a very successful
one, yeah.
Olympic, boxing
Your
Olympics.
last fight was in March. That was the first of this new weight that you're in,
Yeah.
against Fedotov. So you won. What's next for you? Have you got any news for us?
I'm waiting on a meeting now. I want to get myself in a mandatory position for the British title, and then once I take the British title, defend it, and then move on to European or Commonwealths.
Okay, so guys, let's look at the table as it's going to be. What do you think? Do you think that Man City, Manchester United, who's going to get that fourth spot?
I think...
I mean, it's not actually guaranteed for Arsenal. I'm just being presumptuous there. And Arsenal, as much as they do tend to let it slip at the last possible moment as well, don't they?
Difficult one to call, but you'd have thought that it's going to be City. I'd have thought, although it's a really disappointing end to the season, they still want to get into the Champions League. Can you imagine Pep Guardiola coming over to manage Man City not having Champions League?
But there is quite a possibility that might happen. I mean, I guess that we're actually on air right now as the Manchester United West Ham game's being played out, and that is a factor, isn't it?
Wouldn't that make Pep's life a little bit easier? Thursday night, Europa League, he could quite considerably put out Man City's reserves for a lot of the early rounds of that particular competition. Plus, he can then retain his focus on the... I think he's got a huge job on his hands. I actually think if you given the choice, I'd probably think both the Chelsea job and the Man City job next season will be some of the hardest jobs to take on in the Premier League due to fan expectation, boardroom expectation, and just generally what we as football fans expect those clubs to be doing. I think Pep's going to find this one of the biggest challenges of his career.
Dan, another team that's actually had a pretty good season is Liverpool under Klopp. They are in the Europa Cup final next week. They win it and they're into Champions League football, so it's a pretty major reward for them. Do you think they can do it?
Yeah, well, why not? They are though in that final up against Sevilla, who are almost specialists in that competition. They've won it,
I love it
3 times in a row. But Klopp is hungry. He's got a hungry young side. He wants to do this, and
they need it, to be honest, don't they?
And wouldn't it be great to have 5 teams in the Champions League for the English Premier League?
So there still is hope, because there's some of the clubs, Liverpool, Manchester United, a bit of silverware from the FA Cup wouldn't hurt Manchester United. To be honest, the only club that is really coming away from this season with not much to show is Arsenal, because they're just in their usual sitting.
I was just like, seriously, I'm done.
Chelsea are done, but Arsenal should have been at least in a position where they're considering some kind of silverware. They shouldn't always just be sitting in this position.
They'll get their finishing in the top 4 trophy that seems to be Arsene Wenger's.
That seems to be given out. They have an internal medal that goes out.
And Wenger's eternally forgiven for it.
I think Arsenal fans sometimes they forget how lucky they are to have a club like they've got that has the regular consistency. But I do see the other side of it and their frustrations. They're sat on all this money. They went and got Czech, which was a great signing, and then they just didn't seem to do anything else. So it'd be interesting to see Wenger. Maybe he'll change his ways, but
from what I hear and assume, I'm pretty sure there is going to be very limited spending again. But as always, it's been a fantastic show. Thank you so much, Frank, Dan and Sam, for coming on. If you want to join us, you can join in the conversation on Twitter at Box2Box Show. From me and this little troublesome one, we will see you again very shortly. It's goodbye for now.